So let's do it. What I've got here, I'm working on my Berlin 1 host. I've got a database that I backed up, a single instance database that I backed up the other day. And here's my backup. It's just an absolutely normal RMAN backup existing in this directory, ORCL-backup. Perfectly normal RMAN backup. Nothing special about that at all. It was, by the way, a cold backup. There's no reason why it should be an offline backup. It could be a hot backup, no problem. But I happen to use an offline backup just so I didn't have to mess about with archive logs. And I'm going to restore it onto shared storage. To get the database onto shared storage extracted from the backup, I need to have an instance running. And I'm going to do it all with RMAN. The RMAN duplicate has to be the easiest way to do it. I prepared a parameter file, and I made the parameter file as simple as I can. Cat Oracle Home dbs init Oracle1 init orcl1.aura. There's my parameter file. I've set it just, just 6 parameters. Compatible, because the backup itself, the original database, was indeed 12.102, so I have to set compatible. I've told it where I want my control file to be. I'm using Oracle Managed Files. I love Oracle Managed Files. If any of you are not using Oracle Managed Files, start using them. Once you get used to it, you'll never look back. And name of the database, that's the one required parameter. There's no default for DB name. And then a couple of parameters to give me some memory. So that's my bare bones parameter file. So export Oracle SID equals ORCL1, which will be the name of the instance. In case sensitivity comes in here. Export Oracle SID equals ORCL1. And see if I can build the instance in memory. //assistdba. And just give it a starter, or create the SP file first. Create SP file from P file, generate an SP file, and get the instance running. Start up. Now, instance will build in memory, but it's not going to get very far, of course. It's going to be looking for control file on plus data. Plus data is my ASM disk group, remember, from the beginning of our lesson. So that's my disk group, and of course it can't find the control file because it doesn't exist. Now, but I should now be able to restore the backup. So exit and connect with RMAN. If you don't duplicate your databases with RMAN, you should probably start doing it. So connect to it as an auxiliary instance, and then just give it a one-line duplicate command. So duplicate target database to RCL, backup location, $home, ORCL-backup, which is there. And see how far it gets. Now, I find RMAN duplicate, I love RMAN duplicate, and the scripts it generates are really instructive. And I would strongly advise you to do RMAN duplicates, do RMAN tablespace point-in-time recoveries, do RMAN table recoveries, and so on. And watch the scripts that RMAN generates. They're very instructive. A lot of undocumented commands in them. And you can learn a lot from studying an RMAN script. But so far, there's nothing RAC here at all. All I'm doing is creating a duplicate database from backup. Nothing special about that at all. There's the instance being built in memory. Or, sorry, there's the memory script coming in there. My apologies. We're going to set the database name. Oh, it's going through quite quickly, isn't it? There's a lot of tuning you can do with this, by the way. You can see now we're building the instance in memory. I've got just one channel being launched. There's my generating of new file names, Oracle Managed Files, make that so much easier. And now it's actually doing the restore. There's a lot of tuning you can do at this point. I'm doing this completely on defaults. Very low memory allocations, only one by default auxiliary channel. Yes, so just completely on defaults, just for the purposes of this demonstration. Also remember, I did say I'm doing this from an offline backup. There's no reason why it shouldn't be done from an open backup, no reason at all. And that will minimize the downtime for getting a single instance database into a clustered environment if you do it with hot backups. You can actually get the downtime for the switchover down to single-digit minutes. And then all your end users need to do is just redirect to TNS names files, or perhaps do it through a DNS change to go through the scan listeners to the RAC database rather than to the single instance one. So restore done. There's the control file updates. as we switch the control file to use the copies, and that looks pretty good. Looks as though it worked first time, which is not bad at all. So, the final startup, I hope. We've done recovery, restart, another change to the SP file. And that should be the final step. As we open reset logs. Good. So what have I got at this stage? Well, SQL plus / assistdba. So I've restored my backup from file system. What have I ended up with? Well, select star from $, control file. Control file is on shared storage. What about my data files? My data files are on shared storage. There they are. And of course my online log as well. Select member from $log. Oops. Log file. $log file. That's there. My online logs are there as well. But it's a single instance database at this point. Show parameter cluster. It's all on shared storage, yes. But cluster database, false. To convert to RAC, what do I need to do? Cast your mind back to my diagram that we have here. It's on shared storage, yes. But I've got to create multiple undo table spaces to support multiple instances and multiple threads of redo. So, create an undo table space. Create undo table space, give it a name, data file size 50 megabytes. Then I need to create the second thread of redo to support the second instance. There's no command explicitly to create a thread, you just add a log file nominating a new thread. Every thread of redo requires at least 2 log file groups, so there we are. Right. What do I have now? Well, if you look at my table spaces, I've got 2 undo table spaces, the one that I restored and the one I just created. Looking at redo, query against $thread, select thread hash status instance from $thread. I've now got thread 1 is open by instance ORCL1. There's no downtime, but well, there'll be a bit more, but there's minimal downtime from now on. Thread 2 is closed. I need to enable the thread, also database enable public thread 2. And that should have got my, it's closed, yeah. But it is now at least enabled, ready for use. So, ready to go. Vital parameters. I want to check alter system set cluster database equals true. That's the critical parameter. That tells the instance that you are going to be running on a RAC. And the instances know they'll have to cooperate with other instances as a result. It's a static parameter, so SP file. 2 more parameters to set. In a RAC, every instance must have a different instance number. So I'm telling Oracle that ORCL1 will be instance 1, and that ORCL2, when it gets going, will be instance 2. This is in fact optional depending on how you configure your database. If you use policy management, you don't even have to do that. All you need to do is change 1 parameter. And then bounce the instance. Startup force. Well, while that's going, I'll get ready with my second node, which is Berlin 2. To get an instance onto the node, I'll need to get an SP file over there. I've got to get an SP file across so the instance can actually start. So this is the command I'm going to run. I shall run SCP. Whoops. What's wrong with that?
John, should the SP file be on shared disk?
It should be on shared disk, yes. I'm not going to put it on shared disk in this demonstration, but that's definitely true if I ask this. Your SP file should undoubtedly be on shared disk. The password file as well, by the way. I'm just not going to do it this way for now. That would be more the type. In our course, by the way, we do all that, of course. So I've copied my SP file orcl1.aura to Berlin 2, and I've renamed it to SP file orcl2. If it were properly on a shared disk, I wouldn't have to do any of that, for instance. My database is restarted, and if we look at it now, it will be a clustered database. So let's just get the proof of that with this command. Should have got one somewhere with show parameter cluster. Yes, we are now a clustered database, but we still aren't there yet, because if you look at the detail of it, we are a clustered database, yes, true, but there's only one instance on one node. So I've got to start my second node. Well, I've got the SP file across, copied it over, let's fire it up. Right, SSH to my second node, Berlin 2. Set my environment, or env, and set my environment, oh, I don't want that, dot or env, orcl2 is the name of it. Set my environment to, and I'll just do this in stages, JW, then export Oracle sed equals orcl2, and see if I can fire up that database instance. SQL plus / sysdba, idle instance, start up. And at this point, we see how many typing errors I made. Quite possibly quite a few. Well, the instance is built in memory. It should now be attempting to locate the shared control file. If it can locate the shared control file, we've mounted it. We've got the control file. We'll now be opening the database. And at that point, it will be acquiring a currently unused thread of redo, a currently unused undo table space. So as long as you've got enough threads, enough undo table spaces for the maximum number of instances, you should be okay. And it's opened. And look at that. I've now got a 2-node cluster. So that was a very simple demonstration of how to take a backup of a single instance database, restore it to shared storage, make the changes necessary for converting it to RAC, which were trivial. It was creating an undo table space, creating a thread of redo, and setting, 3 parameters, and then just start up the second instance. And that's done. Back to you, Dave.